OCO, my name's Jessica and welcome to my art channel. So let me present an idea to you. If an artist in the US creates a piece of art, it's widely regarded as American artwork. No one looks at that piece of art and goes, doesn't look very USA to me. Where are the cheeseburgers or the American flag? But if an indigenous person creates a piece of art that doesn't fit a certain style or look, like feathers or beadwork or dream catchers, all of a sudden it's not indigenous art because it doesn't look very Native American, right? So I'm here to tell you that that's a conditioned mindset. And as a human being, you are gifted with the idea of free thought. So let's talk about it. What is indigenous art? Quite simply, it's artwork that was made by an indigenous person. From what I've seen, a lot of people think that it has to have a certain look or subject matter, but I believe it's terribly close-minded to think that Native people must be limited to a certain aesthetic. Eagles can be Native symbols, but they can also represent nature preservation or America or freedom. The question to consider is, why does everyone else get to share these symbols and aesthetics, but we as indigenous artists are limited to them? Because if we expand past those, it's no longer perceived as Native art. Someone I knew in college actually created a beautiful piece of artwork for an art show and spoke of this piece in his artist statement as Native artwork. And our professor actually told him that he didn't think it looked Native American enough to consider it as Native American artwork. He struggled with that for a while, questioning his vision and wondering if he needed to add more feathers or something. But truthfully, it was Native American art. I personally have never had anyone tell me that my art wasn't Native enough. However, I've always been so insecure that someone eventually will make that comment that I purposely add stereotypical symbols in my art if I'm going to present it as Native American art, which I'm not proud of. I mean, it's not true to my creativity or my culture. I don't really want to feed those misconceptions. So if you're struggling with those same insecurities, ask yourself this: are you Native American? Did you create that piece of art with your mind, feet, hands, whatever? Then how could it be anything else but Native American art? For this next part, I really want to talk about it with care because I can't speak for everyone, and I also hate offending people. Yet it's something that's important and relevant. Remember at the beginning of this video how I mentioned that this idea is a conditioned mindset? Another term that you may hear is colonist logic. And whenever I personally say colonist logic, I don't mean that in like a terribly condescending or degrading way. Rather, I'm just trying to bring awareness to how we think and why we come to those conclusions. I really don't want this to be an us against them situation because in my own life, I've noticed this type of logic doesn't solely exist in white people. I am not 100% Native American. My ancestors were not only indigenous, but they were colonizers too. Through boarding schools, the Trail of Tears, and other hurtful events, this colonist mindset was created in our own people and then passed down to the younger generations in order to try to eliminate the Indian in us. Because of this, I feel like it's especially important for me to recognize these things within myself and snuff them out. And in the process of me doing that, maybe it could help you with your own mental journey. And just for good measure, I can't speak for all Native people. This is my own experience, and there are many people in my tribe who have different struggles than me. Quick side note, I posted something on TikTok about stolen land, and I didn't realize that this is actually like a really controversial thing. I just thought everyone knew. And I feel like if you were aware of like the true history, then surely you would agree that it was stolen. Like a lot of people wanted to call it conquered land, and that would make sense if it were conquered. But instead, for many tribes, a treaty was agreed upon, signed, and then broken. Typically, when a contract is broken, the physical property returns to its owner, or something is done to rectify the situation. Like legally, that could look like repossessed cars or foreclosed houses. But even on more private terms, if you sell your car to someone and their method of payment ends up being no good, wouldn't you ask for the money that you're owed or take your car back? The minute those treaties were broken, the land became stolen. And in the case of my tribe, our treaty wasn't even signed in good faith. I'll include a link below if you're interested in reading more about that. But anyways, back to art. Our ancestors were influenced by the land and the world around them back then. So naturally, as a people, we're going to continue that practice. And the fact is, the world looks different in today's modern age. So our art will be updated and look just as different. I personally love nature. I connect with it a lot. So most of my paintings center around landscapes or the outdoors. But I also really like fantasy and animation. So whenever I create those backgrounds, a lot of the time there's an element of magic or mystery. And as we talk more, I kind of find the conversation shifting to other questions like, is it okay to describe art as Native American? And I think the answer is yes. Especially if the subject matter is inherently native subject matter, like earlier dwelling spaces, teepees, mud homes, cliff dwellings, or the medicine wheel. It makes sense to describe something as Native American whenever it's very unique to our culture. We just have to remember that as time goes on, our way of life does too, and that affects everything, including art. Many times changes are made to our culture in order to preserve it. For example, we didn't have a writing system for most of our history, but in recent years we've started recording those stories through the written word or on camera. Word-of-mouth storytelling is a tradition that is still honored to this day, but as a tribe we recognize the need for preservation and took action accordingly. Many people view native art as relics of a dying culture, and I think that's part of the problem. Si oje tohan. We're still here. I will leave you with this quote from Oscar Howe when he wrote a letter to the Philbrook Art Center in 1958 after receiving comments about his work not being authentically native. Whoever said that my paintings are not in the traditional Indian style has poor knowledge of Indian art indeed. Are we to be held back forever with one phase of Indian painting, with no right for individualism, dictated to as the Indian always has been? Well, I'm not going to stand for it. Indian art can compete with any art in the world, but not as a suppressed art. I only hope the art world will not be one more contributor to holding us in chains. I really appreciate you watching this. So the piece that I worked on throughout this video was actually a background I created for the Avatar Academy application. I ended up not making it past the first round, but I really appreciate how much this piece pushed me creatively. And you want to know what's funny? I almost didn't put this speed painting up on this video because I was like, man, I really need to do a more native style of painting, since I'm talking about my culture. Jessica, did you not learn anything? What is this whole video about? So I swallowed my insecurity about posting this very Asian Avatar The Last Airbender inspired art and paired it with this video anyway because I am indigenous. Therefore, every piece of art that I make becomes indigenous art. I'm so uncomfortable. Personal growth. If you still think that certain types of cultures need to produce a certain type of look, then that's fine, I guess. Just as long as you're not prejudiced about which cultures, then I guess we just have fundamentally different definitions of what art is. This is probably the most controversial thing I'll post. I typically try to stay away from hot topics. I do my best to unite people through interests rather than separate, but this topic is relevant and very important, so I'm grateful that you listened with open ears, and I promise to do the same for you. Happy Native American Heritage Month! Go eat an Indian taco or attend a cultural event. Celebrate with us. Wado for watching, and please enjoy the next video. Bye!